Hey everyone, and welcome back. Now, today we're going to be talking about Jasmy because we're seeing a lot of really interesting things coming out of Jasmy, both a little bit from price action, but primarily because people are starting to talk about it again, and that's really good news because at least for the past, I don't know, probably a couple of months, we haven't really seen too much of really anybody talking anything about Jasmy, and so the fact that we're starting to see people talk about it again is definitely really a good thing to see. And so anyway, let's go ahead, dive right in, take a look at kind of all the things that we're seeing. What we can see is looking at Jasmy on the month, we can see it's up 63%. So pretty decent overall. You know, it's kind of held in with a lot of some of these kind of more mid-level gainers. Obviously hasn't seen some of the things like, you know, some of these top level ones, XLM, Algo, ADA, XRP, Virtual, you know, some of these have really kind of led the way. HBAR is another one. They've kind of been the ones that have kind of led the market, done really quite well, all that type of stuff. But we're seeing a lot of these kind of secondary gainers that have a ton of, I would say, really strong potential in here. We've got Caspa, we've got Aptos, we've got, you know, Tia even in here doing really quite well. Tau is kind of, I would say, even been maybe more of a laggard than some of the others. I mean, there's a lot in here. Say's another one. We have Sui over here at 74%. So, I mean, a lot of the ones kind of in that mid-level. So it's not at all anything to be concerned about, at least in my opinion, the fact that we haven't seen Jasmy kind of being one of the ones leading things. I think it's still in a really good position. If we look at price and kind of how price is done, looking overall pretty decent. It had kind of broke, or has, I guess I should say, still kind of broken out above this kind of yellow line. If we kind of zoom out a little bit, we could see this is almost kind of like a reverse wedge in a sense. Things have kind of been higher highs, also lower lows. We can see we have broken out of it. If we zoom back in now, we can see the first time we broke out of it, it was very momentary. It was just a wick. We have actually closed, at least on the 4 hour above. We are kind of starting to fall back a little bit. So this does remain to be a possibility that, at least looking on the daily, this could remain to kind of be a wick. And so on the daily is usually when I look for kind of sustained moves or breakouts to the upside. So if we do kind of fall back inside, I would not consider this like a real breakout, just something more of like a wick. And so we can see, though, I mean, we've held above this kind of 2.5 cent range very well. We haven't really come up to test this like next support level of about 3.2 cents. After that, we're looking at somewhere close to like 3.8 cents, 3.9 cents, and then we got about the 4.5 cent. And then after 4.5 cent, I think is really where we start to potentially get a little crazy and start to find price discovery and all this different type of stuff. And so looking here, I mean, we can see we've probably got a little bit of ways to go for that, but we can see, you know, volume has picked up a little bit. Even particularly recently, we've started to see a lot more volume. RSI is not overextended yet, so that's good. It's kind of towards the top of it, but not overextended. But things overall looking pretty decent. Also on the Bollinger Bands, we can see hasn't really spread too wide yet. I mean, the moves, other than this one where we saw, you know, kind of a pretty quick move to the upside, it's been pretty measured. We haven't seen any of these like massive, like, you know, opening, like the Bollinger Bands opening like we see here or here. It's been a pretty, like, I would say, consistent move to the upside here. Overall, though, I do think we will probably start to see a little bit more of some explosive moves to the upside just as we start to get a little bit more eyes and attention and all this type of stuff focused on Jasmy. What we can see here, we've got two different types of tweets I want to take a look at. We can see Silent Alonzo is kind of showing us a lot of the like bullish alerts that we are seeing from within Jasmy. We could see that, you know, Binance has just dropped 800 million Jasmy into its wallet, and so, you know, potentially they're stacking up for you know, various things that maybe we're not privy to yet, but they are already aware of. Also, we can see that like more top profiles and people within the crypto space are actually starting to talk about Jasmy. And so the fact that we are seeing people start to like mention Jasmy again and pick it up and all that type of stuff, really good. We can see almost 14,000 impressions on this so far. So, I mean, definitely people are seeing the news here. Also, what we can see is Connor Kenny has started talking about it again as well. Connor Kenny, if you don't know who he is already, I mean, he's probably one of the top like crypto influencers in the space, and so, you know, obviously when he talks, a lot of people listen, and so, you know, the fact that he's talking about Jasmy as well is another good sign that like people are starting to kind of turn back onto it. We're starting to see people really kind of focus in on what we're seeing with Jasmy price and some of the developments and all that type of stuff. As we talked about, kind of when things got really boring for Jasmy in particular, we kind of came to this kind of realization or this conclusion, right, of Jasmy is something that it comes in, you know, it ebbs and it flows, and currently we're in a period where eyes aren't on it. People aren't really super interested. They're building, they're working, all this type of stuff. Like it's not a big deal, right? But when it comes back, it's going to come back hard. And I think we are starting to see the very early signs of this. Obviously, this could kind of fizzle and go away. But what we are seeing overall, though, is people are tuning in, people are paying attention, a lot of that type of stuff. And so anyway, if we go back and take a look at the Jasmy chart, what we can see here is I think we've seen that, right? I mean, volume's starting to creep up. I mean, we've seen spikes here and there, but volume's kind of starting to trend to the upside. Price is starting to trend to the upside. So we're seeing people kind of come back. I mean, if we look at kind of what the highs were, or kind of the average here, I mean, most days, I mean, that's like less than half of what the volume we're doing is on some of these more recent days. And so if we even go back to the daily and just kind of take a look at this from a longer perspective, we can see exactly that, right? I mean, even before this massive run up that we saw in June, I mean, the volume on Jasmy is absolutely ginormous, and we haven't even seen anything even close to that coming back. And so obviously, we're starting to see kind of the slow climb up, but we haven't really seen anything like this yet, right? I mean, that just hasn't happened. So I do think we will get there. I think it's starting to happen. People are starting to kind of get turned back onto Jasmy, all that type of stuff. So I do think we'll see it eventually. But right now, we're just kind of playing the waiting game, which is some of the boring things involved with investing. But if you are interested in trading Jasmy, buying Jasmy, holding Jasmy, any of this type of stuff, please feel free to use my link in the description below for Margex. I do most of my trading here on Margex. I've traded Jasmy multiple times before in the past. Probably depending on what we see happen here, I might be taking a trade just to potentially try and catch some of the moves on the upside here. Generally, when I trade Jasmy, I trade relatively low leverage just because I don't, I'm not trying to like get my positions liquidated, particularly when I think it could be a bumpy ride, but we are going to see a move to the upside, right? And so that's probably something I'm going to be doing. If you are interested, like I said, link in the description below. You can trade up to 100x leverage. I believe it's 25 on Jasmy specifically. Also up to $10,000 in deposit bonuses, as well as super importantly, no KYC or VPN needed if that is something that is important to you. Anyway, hopefully you found the information in this video useful. If you did, please do give me a like and subscribe because it really does help me out. Also, if you have any comments, questions, concerns, anything like that, please feel free to drop those in the comment section below because I do try to read and respond to all of those. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next video.